倒下了，整个村差不多没了。
At 11 o'clock in the morning, the dam broke. Not one dam, 5. In the space of a single morning in southern China, 2 sections of the Liulan Reservoir dam collapsed simultaneously.
整个村差不多没了。这六廊水库啊。
Creating a gap 50 meters wide, 164 feet of open concrete, with 93 million cubic meters of water behind it. That water did not flow downstream, it exploded downstream, and within hours, villages that had stood for generations were submerged under a wall of mud, broken trees, and debris that moved faster than anyone could run. This is what happened in Guangxi, China on July 6, 2026. And the part that should concern you most is not what already happened. It is what is still happening right now. Subscribe and turn on notifications before we go any further, because this situation is still developing, more rain is in the forecast, and the dams that are still standing are not all safe. Let us start with the storm that caused this, because Typhoon Maysak is not the typhoon that has been dominating international headlines this week. That would be Super Typhoon Bavi, which made landfall on the island of Rota in the northern Mariana Islands with 150-mile-per-hour winds. Bavi has been the story that captured global attention because of its catastrophic wind speeds and its direct hit on United States territory. But Maysak, the smaller, quieter storm, has just demonstrated something that meteorologists have been saying for years and that the public consistently underestimates. Wind is not always what kills in a typhoon. Water is, rain is. The slow, relentless accumulation of water that has nowhere to go except into the reservoirs, the rivers, and eventually the homes of the people living downstream. Typhoon Maysak made landfall in Hainan on July 3rd and then stalled over the Guangxi-Zhuang Autonomous Region, pumping warm, moisture-laden air from the South China Sea directly inland for days without moving on. The result was rainfall on a scale that shattered records. In Bafeng Village, in Binyang County, 713 millimeters of rain fell in a single 24-hour period. That is 28 inches. That is more rainfall in one day than many cities receive in an entire year. It is the highest 24-hour rainfall accumulation ever recorded in Guangxi. That water had to go somewhere. By Saturday, it was going into reservoirs that were already at or beyond capacity after days of continuous rain. By Sunday morning, 82 monitoring stations along 65 rivers across Guangxi had been pushed above warning levels, with water levels exceeding safety thresholds by up to 5.8 meters in some locations. The entire regional water management system was under simultaneous stress across an enormous area. And then, on Monday morning at 11 o'clock, Liulan Reservoir, the largest medium-sized reservoir in the Hangzhou area, with a total storage capacity of 93 million cubic meters, gave way. 2 sections of the dam body failed at the same time. The gap that opened was 50 meters wide. The water that came through that gap carried everything the flood had collected on its way. Mud, uprooted trees, structural debris from buildings already swept away upstream.
都冲塌了，我们村委已经淹到1楼了，看到没有？看到没有？那已经淹到这个房顶了。
Eyewitnesses on the downstream side filmed what they described as a wall of water tearing through homes while people screamed that the dam was gone. Some villages were inundated so quickly that residents had no time to reach higher ground. They climbed to second floors and rooftops and waited, surrounded by moving water, with roads cut off and supplies running out. One resident from Dongshu village in the town of Yunbiao described the scene directly. The flooding hit so fast that people simply could not get out. The water was too deep and rushing too fast. Everyone was trapped on upper floors. Food and clean water were already running out, but the roads were completely cut off. That is what 93 million cubic meters of water looks like when it is no longer behind a dam. But Liulan was not the only dam that failed on Monday. This is the part that changes the scale of this disaster entirely. The Liulan Reservoir in Hangzhou also overtopped and breached. The Sansha and Shaiwan reservoirs in the same area suffered overtopping and severe structural damage. In neighboring Binyang County, the Liulan Reservoir began spilling over its banks and was doing so as of the latest reports. 4 reservoirs failed or were critically compromised in a single region on a single day. The infrastructure of an entire water management network collapsed under the weight of a single storm's rainfall. In response, the Nanning city government did something it almost never does. It raised the city's flood control emergency response from level 3 all the way to level 1, the highest tier in China's 4-level flood control warning system. Activating level 1 means that the situation has exceeded the capacity of local and regional emergency services to manage without full national mobilization. It means that every available resource, emergency management, fire rescue, water resources, military, is being directed simultaneously at the same crisis. Approximately 48,000 people have been evacuated from the flood-affected areas of Nanning's jurisdiction as of the latest official reports. In total, approximately 55,000 people have been affected by the flooding. China's National Development and Reform Commission has allocated 100 million yuan, approximately $14 million, in emergency funds for immediate recovery efforts focused on rebuilding damaged roads, irrigation systems, schools, and hospitals. At least 2 deaths have been confirmed in Guangxi directly linked to the flooding. In the broader region, at least 10 people have died across central and southern China from the storm system as a whole, including 8 deaths in Hubei province from severe storms associated with the same weather pattern. And engineers at another dam in the region made a decision that captures exactly how close to complete collapse the situation came. Facing a dam that was minutes from catastrophic failure, they made the call to deliberately blow the spillway, to destroy part of the structure on purpose in a controlled way, to release pressure and prevent a total uncontrolled collapse that would have been far more devastating than a managed breach. It is one of the most extreme decisions available to dam engineers, and they made it under time pressure, with the dam already failing around them. Now let us talk about what comes next, because this is the part that meteorologists are most concerned about. Typhoon Maysak's residual circulation is expected to continue dumping heavy rain across Guangxi at least through Tuesday. That means more water is still coming. It means pressure on the dams that are already breached or structurally compromised is not going to ease immediately. Any dam sitting in a damaged state right now, overtopped, cracked, with its structural integrity already reduced by days of extreme rainfall and water pressure, faces additional stress from every additional centimeter of rain that falls in its catchment area. After Tuesday, the remnant circulation is forecast to drift northward. That drift takes the rain towards some of the most densely populated provinces in China: Hunan, Hubei, Jiangsu. These are not remote, sparsely populated regions. These are provinces with tens of millions of people, major river systems that are already running at elevated levels from the same regional rainfall pattern, and their own reservoirs and flood control infrastructure that has been under stress for days. The question that disaster researchers are asking right now is not whether more flooding will occur. The forecast makes that essentially certain. The question is whether the infrastructure that has already been weakened, the cracked dams, the overtopped reservoirs, the rivers running above warning thresholds, will hold through the additional rainfall that is still coming, or whether Monday's cascade of failures is only the beginning of a longer sequence. It is worth stepping back for a moment to understand what this disaster represents in a broader context, because it connects directly to patterns we have been seeing across the entire Western Pacific this week. But first, it is important to understand something about China's dam infrastructure that most international coverage never mentions. China has more dams than any other country on Earth, approximately 98,000 registered dams, more than the next 4 countries combined. The vast majority of those structures were built during the rapid industrialization and agricultural expansion of the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s, using construction standards and materials that reflected the technology and resources of that era. Many of those dams are now between 50 and 70 years old. They were not designed for the rainfall intensities that climate scientists are now documenting across southern China. They were not stress tested against 713 millimeters of rain in 24 hours. And in many cases, the maintenance and inspection records for these structures are incomplete or not publicly available. The Chinese government has been aware of this vulnerability for years. A major dam safety campaign launched in the early 2000s identified tens of thousands of dams as structurally deficient and requiring urgent repair or replacement. Progress has been made, but with 98,000 structures spread across an enormous country, and with climate patterns producing increasingly extreme rainfall events in the regions where many of those structures sit, the gap between the pace of infrastructure improvement and the pace of climate change has not closed. 2 typhoons are currently active in the Western Pacific simultaneously. Super Typhoon Bavi, with its catastrophic wind speeds, has been the story that international media focused on. But Typhoon Maysak, the smaller and less dramatic storm, has just killed people, destroyed dams, displaced tens of thousands, and brought parts of southern China to the brink of one of its worst flood disasters in years, without making landfall as a major typhoon, without generating the kind of dramatic satellite imagery that drives global headlines. The lesson here is one that meteorologists have been delivering for years without it fully penetrating public consciousness. A typhoon does not need to be a Category 5 monster to be catastrophic. It needs to stall in the right place, over the right terrain, with the right amount of moisture for long enough. Maysak did exactly that, and 713 millimeters of rain in 24 hours and 5 failed or compromised dams and 55,000 people affected is the result. This situation is still developing. The rain has not stopped. The damaged dams are still standing, for now. The residual circulation is still moving. If you want updates on this story as it develops, subscribe and hit the bell, because the most important part of what happens in Guangxi may not have happened yet.